this is where you would come to get everything. This is the computer that will be used to search. I can't be loud in here. This is the machine where it comes out. Can you see all of that? All right. I don't record nobody because it's a whole room in here. All right. Okay, so I have an issue that somebody is saying that these documents right here came from out of this office, correct?
Okay, can you just put your name here and CS for customer service file records, please?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, you said that these, yes, this is from the court jacket, case jacket. Why?
Because somebody is saying.
What are you doing?
No, she's on here with me. That's all. She's just listening.
What is she? Who is that? Who is that?
The person who is saying that the paperwork is not real.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is she on the phone? What is she asking about?
She wants to know, is that paperwork accurate? I told her I got it from here, so it is accurate.
This is from the court documents.
Yes, that's. Yeah.
With all of the controversy that Eyone Williams, aka the DC Blacks, have created over whether or not his motion to suppress his statement, as well as the statement itself, are true, I thought it only right that we verify the information that's across your screen, including, but not limited to, Eyone's statement itself, wherein Eyone Williams explains to law enforcement that he'd been selling drugs for a man named Darren Ware and another man named Donald Nall, also explaining how he'd met them through another individual named Kareem, and how he'd buy himself a half an ounce of cocaine every Friday from Mr. Ware and Mr. Nall for $400 and then turn around and sell it for $8. Today we dive into the psyche of this culturally conflicted, upper middle class mixed kid's mind state at the time of this murder, with parents that were drug addicts and failures, as the report calls them, a mother that overdosed on heroin when Eyone was just 6 years old, and an auntie that would take him in and provide a better quality of life. What would make this seemingly smart kid turn into such a lowlife, as he refers to himself in today's report? Today we unlock the psyche of Eyone Orlando Williams. Welcome to the Diary of a DC Black.
Report on Eyone Williams, Dobb, June 19, 77. At the request of his attorney, I met with Eyone Williams at Lorton and reviewed his juvenile social study, school records, psychological evaluation, and pre-sentence report. Eyone talked without hesitation, engaging in discussions of a wide range of subjects, including his memories of family life and his views about current events. He is a thoughtful young man who struggled to digest the insights he got about himself during our discussions. Eyone was open about his feelings, and he worked hard on the moral dilemmas and other requests I made. I found Eyone Williams to be an articulate young man who is highly intelligent and motivated to go to college. Eyone has strong moral values and significant family support. He is remorseful about killing his victim. In my opinion, Eyone's choice to sell drugs while living in a middle-class home is the result of loyalty to his drug-addicted parents, which he believed he would violate if he became successful in school and enjoyed the privilege offered by his aunt after his mother's death. Moreover, his adolescent thought process at the time of the offense resulted in actions, in response to a threat, which he did not intend when he set out. Eyone's strong family continues to be of central importance in his life, although complex unresolved family issues still plague him. He feels close to his young cousin and his aunt, who he refers to as his mother and who raised him since his mother died of an overdose. The deaths of his grandmother and mother when he was 6 were very traumatic and continue to affect his adolescent behavior. Children who lose their primary attachments in elementary school typically have difficulty recovering from such devastating losses, often showing enduring depression, anger, and adjustment problems. His father's addiction and repeated incarcerations have troubled Eyone throughout his life. Eyone's memories of visiting his father in jail haunt him. He says his aunt tries to help his father every time he gets out of jail, but he returns to substance abuse, which drives him back to crime. Eyone says that he was not consciously thinking he had to follow in his father's footsteps, but he did not recognize there was any way out. Eyone has not been helped to recognize his understandable anger at his mother and father for their addiction and the abandonment and sense of worthlessness he felt as a result of his mother's death and father's incarceration. He was always in trouble in elementary school, but has only recently begun to see that his behavior was related to the tragic losses he experienced. When he was in counseling briefly as a child, he thought it was taking the easy way out to attribute his behavior to his reaction to his mother's and grandmother's deaths. His criminal behavior reflects continuing anger from his early losses. While he projects a tough guy image, underneath he remains deeply hurt and reacts to unfair treatment as if he were the child losing his parent. In addition to the losses that have had long-lasting emotional consequences for him, another obstacle to Eyone's taking responsibility for his choices is his sense of unfairness. Like other adolescents, his insistence on fairness causes him to overreact as if personally wronged in many situations. In addition, Eyone has the victim mentality typical of children of substance abusers. He does not see his thinking errors, which lead him to blame outside circumstances instead of believing that he has choices and can change many outcomes in his life. Moreover, much of his apparently aggressive behavior is a bluff to cover anxiety about why he is being treated unfairly or whether he will be able to fit in, either in a middle-class or street situation. For most of his life, Eyone has been caught between two worlds, which played a major role in his criminal behavior. He considers himself part of neither his aunt's middle class nor his friend's street life. He has been tormented by a confusing, hidden allegiance to his criminally involved and drug-addicted mother and father while living with his high-achieving college-educated aunt. Eyone's mother, his aunt's younger sister, had trouble in high school, gave birth to Eyone at 16, became a heroin addict like his father and died of an overdose. His aunt moved him to parochial and private schools to keep him out of their neighborhood public school, but he never fit in and missed his street buddies. Eyone has just begun to realize how much he identified with his mother and father, who were failures. Like many children who grow up in middle-class foster homes but continue to identify with and feel protective of birth parents who maltreated them, Eyone was not taught that it would not be disloyal to his mother and father to enjoy the privilege his aunt has offered him. Eyone has had difficulty coming to terms with cultural conflicts he perceived between his aunt's way of life and his friend's street life. He felt self-conscious when he visited friends in his paternal grandmother's neighborhood who teased him about his upper-class way of speaking. Although embarrassed by her whiteness when he was younger, for doing things like skiing, he now sees that his aunt feels comfortable with her middle-class lifestyle while also enjoying jazz, visiting African art shows, and doing black things. He does not resent the requirement to use business English in the workplace, responding with maturity. There's a time and place for formality and also for street talk. He says he believes there does not have to be a conflict between class and culture. Nevertheless, he has difficulty defining what makes him African American or recognizing that his tough guy act and street talk are disguises he chooses. He did not find a class status that fit his cultural identity, so he could feel proud of being African American without resorting to being a hustler or accepting himself only when he is recognized as a tough guy. Eyone was surprised initially by the suggestion that he feels guilty about his privileged background. He was mystified by himself, still not fully recognizing that without intending to he has made disastrous choices. I have had so many people behind me. I have a scholarship to Howard, college money in the bank from my grandmother and my mother. Why have I been a lowlife even with these opportunities? In my opinion, being a tough guy has served three purposes for Eyone. It was an outlet for the anger caused by traumatic early losses. It covered how scared he feels by what he perceives as the unavoidable dangers of the street. And it gave him an identity when he felt so conflicted about culture/class. Eyone's identification with his mother and father led to his getting in over his head with the drug dealers in his neighborhood. He was not mature enough to see that even if he made intelligent choices as a businessman, he could not protect himself from danger. His tough guy disguise got him into a world that at 16 he had no idea how to extricate himself from. Eyone was not thinking like an adult at the time of the offense. Eyone's recollection of his offense is typically adolescent in several respects. First, he simplistically approached a situation where his intentions were to buy drugs from a supplier. He had not thought about how the drug purchase could backfire. Second, he felt threatened. In retrospect, he said he should have suspected the supplier was going to rob him when a second car followed them and an acquaintance of his was unexpectedly sitting in the back seat of the car. Eyone said he reflexively reached for his weapon when his victim moved to pull out what he thought was a gun. The truth is, I was really scared. Eyone was terrified, overwhelmed by the threat of being killed himself, and this fear interfered with rational thought. Third, he did not have time to think. It all happened so fast. It was over before I knew what happened. He believed it was them or me, but was shocked his victim was dead at the end of what he intended to be a routine drug purchase. This is a typical adolescent thought process. He had given little attention to the possible consequences of his behavior. He did not see himself making choices, but rather being a victim himself in a situation that unfolded out of his control. It was only after the gun went off that Eyone recognized outcome of putting himself in a frightening situation with a weapon. Eyone is remorseful. He continues to have nightmares about his offense where his own terror is jumbled in a confusing way with his horror at what he did. He takes responsibility for killing his victim. Eyone is deeply sorry. He did not intend to use his weapon, but he recognizes that while he did not mean to kill someone, he is responsible for his actions. Eyone is an intelligent young man. In 1991 in 7th grade, Eyone scored higher than the national average, above the 50th percentile, in mathematical computation, 75%, and reading comprehension, 55%. Was an underachiever, earning CS and DS in 7th grade and BS and CS in 8th grade. At age 15 his IQ was average, FS 102, with strengths in abstracting ability and comprehension of social situations. Eyone views himself as intelligent and a good planner. He never appreciated the legal ways he could use his intelligence or found excitement in the challenge of non-criminal problem solving. He never considered a career as a stockbroker or lawyer, although he recognizes these professions require some of the same skills as drug dealing. That would have taken too long. I wanted money and success now. He has since given a great deal of thought to how he can channel his intelligence in productive ways. Eyone is advanced in his moral development. His moral values show recognition not only of laws and social rules but also conscience. Eyone has unusually adult thoughts about social problems. When asked about his disappointment in the immoral behavior of leaders, Eyone responded, "Leaders are like prophets, they have to be better than regular people." When presented with a dilemma of whether to steal medicine to save a family member's life, he responded, "You're going to have to do wrong either way. Stealing is wrong. But I couldn't let a family die if there was anything I could do about it." When presented with a controversial case concerning a young child involved in delinquency, he was thoughtful in his response. His value system is apparent in his remorse about his offense. He talked frankly about how he had been doing things that he knew were wrong for years. He sees these violations of his family values and his own conscience as unacceptable, yet he does not believe he could have lived by his conscience given the real world of his neighborhood. Prior to this offense he did not think he was capable of hurting someone. He was horrified that friends would sell drugs to pregnant women. That could be my mother. He is concerned about the lack of opportunity that face many of his peers. Once you're in too deep, the only way out is death or prison. Eyone is a compassionate young person, talking with deep feeling about the tragedy of his best friend's life growing up with a crack-addicted mother. There's something wrong that kids these days don't have heroes. There is no one to look up. We have to look inside ourselves for the best, for a person to admire.